is Eileen Whipple, and I am thrilled to be here tonight. We are in for a great program. We have a good friend of mine, Lillian Marita from Florida, joining us. She is amazing. And as you know, here on Wednesday Wellness, we want to be well, get well, and stay well. And we want to share information with you that you can use to be able to improve not only your life, but also the lives of our animals and our pets of who we love. And Lillian, she has loved animals her entire life. She is an incredible professional dog trainer. She has owned, I don't know, 20 plus dogs in her lifetime, and she works with them constantly. How many?
I don't know. I have to do the math one day.
But we are thrilled, Lillian, that you could share with us tonight about dog health and what you've also seen over your years of the dog's health improving and declining, and what we can do today to help our animals. And so I will turn the time over to you, and you can take it away.
Okay, so thank you, Eileen. Thanks for inviting me. I'm so passionate about this topic. So I want to put out the disclaimer that I'm not a vet, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm a dog trainer, dog lover. When I was probably 11 years old, I bugged my mom for about a year until I want a dog, until I got a dog. And then I've been training dogs ever since. She enrolled me in a kindergarten puppy training class, and that was the classical, if you give a mouse a cookie. I've never been without a dog by my side, or multiple, at times 10 dogs at a time. And I've competed in conformation and obedience and agility. I've done scent work, dock diving, a lot of things. So dogs are my are my livelihood, but they're also my passion and my love. And I got into this in dogs, they call it natural rearing, which is moving away from your typical, pharmaceuticals. And I started this journey because I was kind of hitting a wall with going to the vet for the same issue over and over and over. And I started thinking, like, there's something wrong, like doing the same thing over and over is the definition of insanity, right? And expecting a different result. So I wasn't happy with that. And that was probably like 30 years ago. The internet was not even created, so you couldn't really go in and like we do now. So it was books, it was seminars, it was talking, trying to find holistic vets. And at that time I lived in Venezuela. I was really limited to what I could have, but I did find some very good holistic vets, and they taught me that we need to get to the root cause. So when things are happening, when we have issues with our dogs, it's the tip of the iceberg. What you're seeing is the tip of the iceberg, and below is where the issue is there. And then after that, I moved on to the concept of like, well, what about prevention? Like, why wait until the iceberg floats? Let's just try to stay healthy for as long as possible. Not only because, vet bills can be pretty steep, especially if you own multiple dogs, but also, the suffering, our animals suffer. The pain is the discomfort. They shy away from you when you have to do multiple treatments a day, or, shoving down pills because, they taste awful and they don't want to eat them. So it was a lot of grief also that motivated me. So I do have a 4-year degree in biology, so I love science. So I'm going to throw a lot of information at you, and some of it is a little sciencey, so you might want to maybe listen to the recording again or do some more research. I know everyone here has been invited by someone who is in LifeVantage, and I joined this company 8 years ago because of health issues with my husband, but I started using the products with my dogs, and I had a result that I never, in 50 years of dog ownership, or maybe 42 at that time, I had never seen results like that. And it made me so excited about learning more. So I've done a lot of reading about the science behind this technology that we're going to talk about. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to jump right into, because the twist that I wanted to give this is the statistics for cancer in dogs are just appalling. Okay, perfect. So I followed, this is Dr. Martin Goldstein, and this is one of the first books that I read. Remember, there was no internet, you had to read a book, The Nature of Animal Healing. And I don't know how old this book is, but see, this is a quote from Dr. Martin Goldstein. When I graduated Cornell in 1973, approximately 1 out of 10 dogs had cancer, and it was always a disease of the old. So if we saw a dog that had a lump and the dog was young, we eliminated cancer as a possibility. We do see commonly nowadays dogs under 18 months of age with terminal cancer. So this is another book that I've read tip to tip. It's underlined and has tons of little post-it notes, Canine Nutrigenomics. And this is it's basically what we're going to talk a lot about today. And this is also by a very well-renowned vet, Dr. Gene Dodds. And here it is, the new science of feeding your dog for optimum health. So again, it's this topic of how nutrition can affect our gene expression. And we're talking about dogs, but I want you to know that this refers to all mammals and humans included, because we're mammals. So think a little bit outside the box. Dogs are my love, and I like to focus on that. But it affects, this applies exactly verbatim to all mammals. And then there's a very interesting documentary called The Truth About Pet Cancer, and it's a 7-part docuseries. And I got hold of that, and it has the transcript. So I've also read that, cover to cover. And Rodney Habib, who is one of the people that are interviewed, he's been doing a lot of, just talking to many different vets. Actually, there's a new book that is coming out in October with a vet. Her name escapes, which is called The Forever Dog. And they're talking about all these issues, what's happening to dogs. So there's a quote there that says, if you look back 50 years ago, where some will say the cancer rate may have been 1 in 100 dogs, according to PhDs, the dog has the highest rate of cancer of any mammal on the planet. So literally from last year's them saying 1 in 2 dogs would get cancer to this year, 1 in 1.65 dogs will succumb to cancer. And this sadly, touches me. I have a student, he was just 9 years old. He was diagnosed with lung cancer, and I think we lost him in about 3 months from the time he was diagnosed. So, beautiful dog. He was not a rescue. This is the family that bought this puppy, from a breeder. They've raised him according to everything what their vet has said, traditional vet. He's been cared for, food, water, grooming, you name it. 9 years old. That should be middle age for a dog, really. Dogs should be living to be 18 to 19 months and 18 to 19 years, really. So this is just the way that I look at this, and a lot of these holistic vets look at it, is it has to be something we are doing to them to cause this massive exponential growth in the rate of cancer in dogs. And to me, that's just totally unacceptable. It just, I'm on a mission that, I want to change dogs' lives. And the way is, educating the owners, because the owners are doing what they think is best for their dog. Nobody is doing anything thinking like, yeah, I'm going to do this because I'm going to help my dog live less or suffer or get a horrible disease. So we're all doing what we think is best. But I think most people are not aware of how massive the amount of environmental toxins that dogs are exposed to on a daily basis. So I'm going to start here on the right. So dogs get vaccinated yearly. Now we recommend, I'm not a vet again, but it is recommended to do titer testing, which is you measure the amount of antibodies. There's a test, they pull blood, they measure the amount of antibodies for the different diseases, and they're analyzed at a lab. And if they're above a certain level, you don't have to vaccinate your dog, but only dogs, holistic vets go with this protocol. Most traditional vets is just, you get your yearly reminder, vaccinate your dog, vaccinate your dog. Then the most common diseases or issues that dogs go to vet for are gastrointestinal issues, ear infections, skin infections, or skin issues. And the traditional route is antibiotics and steroids. And we all know that those have devastating effects on the body. So it's not uncommon, because I see it with my students that go to the vet multiple times a year for the same issue. This is what was happening to me. And that's the route. It's antibiotics, steroids. So there's pollution, right? So for those of us, I mean, I'm very lucky. We live in Ocala, which is like farm country, and there's not maybe like 10 cars go by my road. So every day, but people that live in cities, air pollution is an issue, just like it is for people. Then on top of that, we are told that we need to do flea and tick topicals to keep the fleas and the ticks away. So those come in a variety of forms. It can be collars, it can be spot-ons, and flea and tick shampoos. Then this is a huge issue. I mean, I could talk about this just one Wellness Wednesday just on glyphosate. So glyphosate comes in two ways. The dogs get it in their food and we'll talk a little bit about that. But if you walk your dog any place where the lawns are like perfectly beautiful and there's not one single bug and there's not one single weed, what it means is that lawn has been sprayed. So all golf courses, all public parks, all of that is heavily sprayed. And they usually say like, oh, keep off while it's applied and then it's fine. So you need to think that dogs walk barefoot, right? They lick their feet. They don't get baths every day. Like we can wash off some of the toxins that land on our body, but dogs, they don't get baths every day. They don't have a layer of clothing. And then the pads of their feet, they absorb things very, very quickly. So that's one of the ways that a lot of these toxins are entering is through their skin. And then even if you have your dog, it's an indoor dog or a house dog, and you just let them in your yard, and let's say you don't spray your yard, but you need to be looking at all the products that we use for cleaning, those plugins, even those scented candles, air sprays, stuff that is sprayed on fabric so that it's flame retardant or so that it doesn't stain. All of that is chemicals. So the other thing to think of is all these chemicals that we use in the home, those are heavier than air. So they tend to go low to the ground, and that's where most of the dogs are, right? They're either on the furniture, if you allow them on the furniture, or they're on the, laying on the rugs. The rugs also have all those VOCs and all that stuff. So it's not just one thing, it's the cumulative effect, right, of all these things together. And then the water, just like with us, Eileen did a Wellness Wednesday about water, and it's appalling what's in the water. So they're taking that in as well. And then this also is, a topic. I've been doing what is called raw feeding for over 25 years. So when raw feeding was not a thing, I was already doing raw feeding. Now it's a lot more common. And again, that I could talk for hours on that, but so this is what most dogs eat, right? So let's put that on a human perspective. Pretend that you ate cereal coming out of a box for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day of the week, every single month, from the day you're born to the day you die. That is what most dogs' diets are. And like I was talking about the glyphosate here, one of the things that happens is that most dog food has corn, wheat, or soy as one of the ingredients. And even the proteins that are used come from animals that eat corn, wheat, or soy that has been genetically modified. What genetically modified means is that it can be sprayed with inordinate amounts of this glyphosate, and the weeds around it will die, but the crop will not die. The other issue with glyphosate is that it's water soluble. So now we get it all over. So, rainwater has it, the rivers are contaminated, everything's contaminated, because I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's like, I don't know how many millions of pounds of this glyphosate is sprayed, because most of the crops that are used to feed animals that in turn are used for animal feed, and the crops, the corn, wheat, soy, and now it's oats, beets. I mean, there's so many food sources that are sprayed with glyphosate. So this is supposedly regulated, but you know how it is. So it's levels that and again, it's the accumulation, right? So think a dog that's eating every day food that is contaminated, and its levels that are allowed. So it's just all of this stuff that is just creating this amount of toxins that the body just can't get rid of. So one of the issues with glyphosate also is that it acts almost like a smuggler of heavy metals into the body, and those can go to the brain. So now there's also a big there's Facebook groups on doggy dementia and canine cognitive disorder and things that you would never hear about, like I don't remember that 20 years ago, for example. So now we're going to go a little bit into more like the science part. So the root cause of all inflammation and disease is something called oxidative stress. And the easiest way to think about that is when you leave an avocado or an apple on the counter, it's going to turn brown, right? Because anything that comes in contact with oxygen, so heavy metal, if you leave a metal exposed, it's going to rust. So basically oxidative stress is rusting, and something similar happens inside the cells. So a normal cell is all pretty, and when it's attacked by oxidative stress, which oxidative stress, most of you are familiar with the term free radical. The technical term is reactive oxygen species, or ROS, but it's an unstable molecule that is trying to look for another electron to pair with. And because it doesn't find it, it's like this little crazy thing that's stealing electrons from all other parts of the cell. And then it eventually is going to cause the death of that cell. So oxidative stress is linked to over 200 diseases, including cancer. And this is both in humans and animals. So it is estimated that a dog makes 300, I think it's just like septillion free radicals per day. So one of the things that is different from a dog metabolism from that of humans is their metabolism is a lot higher. So there is it's not a formula, but it's just a ratio that the smaller the animal, the higher the metabolic rate and the less they will live. So a mouse will live, I think, like 3 years, and then a whale can live like 100 and some years, or an elephant. So the bigger the animal, the longer it would live because it has a slower metabolism. So we're kind of like in the middle, well, top, right? We should be able to live, in theory, 120 years. So one of the theories of why we age is that this accumulation of oxidative stress causes damage to all the cells. So cells form tissues form organs, and then organs form, system, digestive system, neurological system, nervous system. So as you can see, oxidative stress can affect everything: kidney, skin, heart, joint, lung, brain, multi-organ, vessel, GI tract, and your eyes. And so within the multi-organ, here we have, aging and cancer is right there. So up to now, what we've been told is that we need to consume very, very large amounts of antioxidants, which are called direct antioxidants because they come with from food, and also vitamins, right? So vitamin C, vitamin E, all these direct antioxidants. If you go to a health food store, there's aisles upon aisles upon aisles of supplements, and you don't know what to take, how much to take. Are they pure? Are they contaminated? Are they really what the label says that it is? Different parts of plants and herbs have different amounts of antioxidants. So you almost need a degree in nutrition to be able to really figure out what you need to eat. But we've been told, leafy lean vegetables, everything that has color, it's all good for you. So that is true, and we do need to eat that. Remember, the dog gets like zip, right? Because he just gets the little kibble thingies right here. This is his food. I don't see any color in there. And whatever was there started with color is now dead because it's been cooked at very high temperatures, right? So dogs don't get any of this, but if they would get it, the one antioxidant molecule will destroy one free radical. Boom, that's it. So to give you an idea, if you get a handful of blueberries, that would destroy around 2,600 free radicals. Now we make this every day. So you do the math, 2,600, or even if you ate a pound of blueberries, which I doubt anybody does, what kind of dent would this create? Like nothing. It would be negligible, right? But that is what we've been told so far, like eat lots of leafy greens, and then that's how you fight free radicals. So there's new science out there, and it's called biohacking with nutrigenomics. And we tend to think of the word hacking as something negative because it's like they hacked my credit card or my bank account. But the word hacking, what it means is to take control of a system and make it work more efficiently, or how you want it to work. So in this case, we're talking about biological systems and how they can be hacked using nutrients, and those nutrients affect the expression of the DNA. So there are two very important pathways, especially what I consider for the dogs, and it's Nrf2 and Nrf1. And when I say pathways, what I mean, think of this as instructions, okay? So these are instructions. So your cell, through the nutrients that we get in the food, can activate these pathways that give the cell instructions to protect it, to detox it, and to create more anti-inflammatory enzymes. Why are anti-inflammatory enzymes important? Because inflammation leads to disease. Unchecked inflammation will lead to disease. So when this Nrf2 pathway, or these instructions are turned on or activated through the nutrients that we're getting in the food, it will protect the cell against oxidative stress damage, that we know all the damage it can cause. It signals to the DNA to make more antioxidant enzymes, more anti-inflammatory proteins, and detoxifying enzymes. And the reason I put this in orange is because I really think that is the key element that is missing for our dogs, is they cannot detoxify from, you saw all that amount of toxic chemicals and toxic things that are entering their body every single day. So they also help repair DNA, and it regulates, this is a fancy term, apoptosis, but what apoptosis means, the reason I put this here in relation to our topic about cancer, is the definition of apoptosis is programmed cell death. And that sounds horrible, but every cell has to have a cycle. So it is born, it lives, it has its function, and it's supposed to die at a certain point. When that process is messed up, the cells keep dividing, and there is a theory that that can be the cause of some tumors. So that is why I put this here, because that's the link to cancer. And then Nrf1, think of, I don't know if some of you may remember something called mitochondria, if you remember 6th grade biology. So the mitochondria is where the energy in the cell is made. And every cell has like hundreds and thousands of mitochondria per cell. So I think it's something like heart cells can have between 3,000 and 5,000 per cell. So these are tiny organelles, and they make something called ATP. And think of ATP as the energy currency. So if we go to the supermarket to buy food, we have to pay with money or the credit card that is money, right? So in the cell, to pay for all the stuff that the cell needs to make to stay healthy, it needs this molecule called ATP, and it's made in the mitochondria. So when the mitochondria start malfunctioning, that's the next theory of aging that we're going to discuss. Sorry. But basically, Nrf1 increases the mitochondrial function and networks, because mitochondria form little networks, or huge networks. It increases the production of that cellular energy, that ATP, that the cell needs to make proteins, to make lipids, to basically for the cell to work. And it's going to improve physical performance or peak performance. So think of this Nrf1 linked to the mitochondria as the energy. So it's like all the cables in your house that go into the outlet so that you can plug in things and your house can function. okay? So the company that we represent, LifeVantage, has an Nrf2 activator that has been clinically proven to reduce oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days. And it's made of natural ingredients. These are herbs: turmeric, green tea, bacopa, milk thistle, and ashwagandha. And some of you might have heard of these, but it's the ratio in which the researcher that came up with the formula, and he was actually able to patent it, is what causes something very, very interesting. So what they did is they measure, these are human clinical studies where they have people, so this is from 20-year-old to 80-year-old. And what they did is they measured the levels of oxidative stress, which is, they have to do like a fancy test called T-bars. And then they measured it. So you see the 20-year-old, when we're 20, right, everything works perfectly and we're all happy and nothing's wrong. And then as we start aging, this oxidative stress starts increasing, okay? So this is over time. As we get old, oxidative stress goes up. And then what they discovered is that when people were using this particular Nrf2 formula, it stayed the same. So at the end of these clinical studies, they could not distinguish the blood of an 80-year-old person from the blood of a 20-year-old person. Now, on the outside, of course, the 80-year-old looked like an 80-year-old, but on the inside, the functioning of their cells, it was the same functioning level as a 20-year-old, the amount of oxidative stress it has. So that was a huge unexpected result, and they were able to patent that formula. So there's another formula called NRF1, and again, all natural ingredients. You might have heard some of them. Again, it's the way that they're combined, the ratio that, so it activates these genes, the NRF1 and these PGC1, all genes have these, you know, funky names. So you see how it's activated by 71%, this one by 65%. So these are the genes that control the, what's called the biogenesis of mitochondria. So making new mitochondria, getting rid of the mitochondria that are not functioning well, okay? So not all Nrf2 activators are created equal. So what happened is they measured the individual ingredients, how much they activated and how much they activated an enzyme called glutathione, which it's like super important. We'll talk a little bit about that. And this formula was 18 times more effective, okay? So just so that you can remember that 300 followed by, I don't know how many, 26 zeros. So one of your body's enzymes, just one enzyme can destroy 1 million free radicals per second. So can you see now how 1 million per second, every second, boom, 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 1 million, 1 million, 1 million, every single second. Now that will create a dent on that huge number, right? And then the enzymes also recycle themselves, because that's the other issue with the direct antioxidant. It's one-on-one, so one free radical per one antioxidant molecule, and they're both destroyed and that's it. So the antioxidant is like gone, it's done, it's used. But your enzymes can recycle. So it's just the amount of free radicals that can be eliminated via this Nrf2 formula. So another of the enzymes that is actually elevated by 300% is called glutathione. And I found this cute little thing where it says, you know, the benefits of glutathione, excuse me. So it reduces oxidative stress, may improve psoriasis, reduces cell damage, improves insulin resistance. So hint, hint, diabetes, increases mobility. A lot of dogs have arthritis towards the end of their life, reduces symptoms of Parkinson's, fights autoimmune diseases, reduces oxidative damage, reduces uncontrolled diabetes, and reduces respiratory disease. So all these are just benefits of this fabulous enzyme. So the other thing that they've measured is that as we age, so this is age, okay? This is how our levels of oxidative stress increase, and this is how the levels of glutathione decrease, okay? So as we age, the natural levels of glutathione decrease. So think of glutathione almost like that sticky fly paper. So all the bad things, all the toxins, all the heavy metals, all that stuff gets stuck to it. It's a huge molecule. It looks like this. So what it does is all of these things get dock onto it, and then they can be excreted via the feces or the urine. Okay, and that's done in the liver. So the other theory, I mentioned this, the mitochondrial theory of aging. And it's again, so this is what we were taught in 6th grade. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So what they now know is that the condition of the mitochondria dictate the capacity of the cell to function over time. So as they decline, cellular operations decline with them. So what this means is so remember we were talking about the mitochondria is like the electric power in the house. So think of it like if the power on your house just worked, a few hours a day, or there were some rooms where there was no power, or there were some lights that went off. So that's a little bit what happens in the body. And then when your mitochondria stop working, look at all the things that can go wrong. Okay, so mitochondrial disease can bring on all this stuff. So for dogs, diabetes is common, arthritis is common. So, rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune diseases. There's a lot of dogs now with that are being diagnosed with autoimmune diseases, liver failure. There's a lot of liver failure and kidney failure in dogs. So kidney diseases here. And of course, our nemesis here, cancer. For people, autism, heart failure. So there's a lot of heart disease in dogs too. Okay. So now specifically talking about mitochondria and cancer, this is super, super interesting. This is a book called Tripping Over the Truth. And he does a recount of, how the mitochondria work and the link to he really talks about cancer in general. But there's this researcher, Seyfried, he says, noted that across the board, cancer cells have damaged mitochondria. So it doesn't matter if it's skin cancer or lung cancer or breast cancer, all those cells, all those cancer cells have damaged mitochondria. So mitochondria generate energy through oxidative respiration. So we take in oxygen, which causes oxidative stress, right? So the damaged mitochondria are going to send emergency signals, and the DNA responds, and then it changes the entire complexion of the cell. Okay, so it begins to exhibit the hallmark features of cancer: uncontrolled proliferation, so that's tumor growth; genomic instability, so those are mutations in the DNA; and evasion of cell death. That's the apoptosis that I was talking about. So instead of dying, they don't die, and then boom, you get that overgrowth of cells. Okay. So this is again a quote from this book, this same researcher, Thomas Seyfried. He says, all cancers are the same. And this is one thing that people have a great deal of difficulty realizing. They think breast cancer is different from brain cancer, from colon, bladder, and maybe different in dogs than humans, mice, but they are all the same. Cancer starts from the damage to the respiration, which is done in the mitochondria, regardless of the tissue. The mitochondria become damaged, and once the mitochondria become damaged, they throw out free radicals, and they are mutagenic and carcinogenic. Okay, so if you're really into the science of this, I really recommend this book. It's a little dense, but you can do it if you're really interested. So I wanted to recap a little bit what we discussed and why I believe that this is a 1-2 winning formula to really, really help our dogs deal with the environmental assault that I think is really just killing them. So Nrf2 activation will protect them, reduce the free radicals by 40% in 30 days with this particular formula. It's going to turn on survival genes that reduce inflammation, and it's going to detox by activating glutathione by 300%. And then the NRF1 will increase cellular energy. That's the ATP. It's going to promote the formation of healthy mitochondria, and it's going to maintain peak cellular function. Okay. So you don't have to believe me, because like I said, I'm not a vet, But if you go to this site, this is the National Institute of Health online library. It's called pubmed.gov. So if you type Nrf2, you're going to find there's 19,000 studies. And if you type Nrf1, there's over 1,500. And 90%, between 70 and 90% of these studies were done in the last 5 years. So I was talking to someone the other day and they told us it takes 17 years from something to go from, you know, the research science world onto, let's say, what we call Main Street. So this information that you're getting, you're 17 years ahead of most people. And that is why your vet probably doesn't know about it. And that's probably why your doctor doesn't know about it, because unless he graduated from vet school or med school 5 years ago, most of this was not known. Okay. So I just wanted to put this out, you know, like these are some of the results that we're getting with dogs. Again, this is not meant to treat, cure, mitigate any disease. This is one of my students. This is a severely arthritic knee. This is how a knee should look like. This is how this dog's knee. This was taken almost 4 years ago. They said the dog leg needed to be amputated because the arthritis was so bad. They even thought he had bone cancer, but it's just arthritis. And this was taken last winter, the dog running, you know, uphill in the snow with the kids. These are some skin issues. This is a cat that had also was amputation was recommended. She was a rescue, and when they found her, her leg was broken and it had healed in a funky way. So she was not, this is where the pad of the foot is. And she was just using this part of the leg. So it had turned into this super ugly growth. And this is a few months later. So the other thing that I wanted to touch is there's a new study that was done in California. I think it's University of Davis in California, and it's the correlation between human and canine aging, because we've all heard that formula, right? Like 1 human year is the equivalent of 6 years. So if my dog is 1 year old, it's equivalent to 6. If he's 2 years old, he's equivalent to a 12-year-old. Well, I have really sad news. And the news is, so this was a study that was done where they were looking at some markers because they've mapped the human genome and they've also mapped the dog genome. So they're looking at markers that correlate how old we both are. And it turns out that dogs age exponentially the first few years of their life, and then the curve really slows down. So look at this. This one is to make me cry. So at 1 year old, our dogs are equivalent to a 30-year-old person. At 4 years old, they're over 50. And then it slows down. So at 10 years, they're, you know, like 60 something, or almost 70 years old. Okay. So remember what I said in the beginning, that I started thinking like, okay, what can we do to prevent? Like, why wait until things happen? So as you can see, you don't have a lot of time, right? 1 to 2, you know, at 1 year, your dog is already 30 years old. So it's almost like and my vet said, like, start like at 4 months, start activation at 4 months. Don't wait. So prevention, right? Does it make sense to start biohacking at an early age? I would say yes. You know, I want to help my dogs celebrate as many birthdays as possible. So this is something that even if you have a healthy dog now, which is great, look at this, you know, they're probably a lot older at the cellular level than you think they are. So I just wanted to end with this, that I want everybody to know that our body's ability to heal is greater than we have been allowed to believe. And we can use activation to help them live the best possible life, and hopefully, you know, just die of old age and not have to deal with horrible diseases, and not have to, you know, die young of a horrible disease like cancer. So my, you know, invite is for you to talk to the person who invited you or send you this information, and all your loved ones should be activated, like in my book, yesterday. So I'm going to stop the share, and then Eileen, I don't know if we're going to do Q&A
Yes. Thank you, Lillian. I just want to touch on a couple of things that you talked about that just totally blew my mind. One was the statistics from 50 years ago versus today. But I love how you explained so carefully the detox, the protection, and the inflammation, getting that down. It was so clear, and I appreciate your explanations. You mentioned at one point cats, and what other mammals does this actually apply to?
Any mammal, because that Nrf2 pathway and the Nrf1 pathway is in all mammals. So from a mouse to a whale and an elephant, we're all mammals. Any animal that raises their babies with milk, it will work. So if you have a beloved goat, I mean, I have people that have goats as pets. Nowadays there's people that have guinea pigs, there's people that have bunnies. It doesn't matter. It will help them all the same.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that.